Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. This time looking at an external drive enclosure here. So this kindly came from Brad, Plan C. There'll be a link to his channel down below. Take a look at his channel. He's done a number of retro repairs, some amazing Archimedes repairs, amongst other things. So yeah, it's kind of take this up. He sent this free of charge. Yeah, so the feet need something doing to them, don't we? Got one missing there, and those have shifted around. But nonetheless, it's an enclosure for an external floppy drive here for the Amiga. So we've got a switch on the back, we've got the cable to daisy chain there, and we've got the cable here. So if I just try and pull the lid off, it's one of these ones where you slide it, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Everything's there. Cable, obviously needed a powered cable, and that might be something I don't have actually. So I managed to go source one of those, but then to put inside it, we've got a Gotek. So yeah, we haven't got a power cable, so that's really annoying. I know where I can borrow one from in the meantime. Doesn't that look nice? Really nice. So I went for the one that's got the rotary thing on the front. It's got a nice little OLED screen, USB, and 2 buttons and an LED. Really nice that. So what is the Gotek? It's a floppy drive emulator. Now the origins of the Gotek go back to like 2014, 2015ish, sometime around that time. A French chap, he's on GitHub, you can check out his GitHub repository, there'll be links to these things down below. Jean-François Del Nero, and he had a project called HXC 2001, and I think his firmware went live in like 2015 or something, so it's like 10 years ago now. The original firmware used files that ended in .hfe, I think. There might have been a couple of different file formats it supported, but it was primarily, well from my experience, picked up on the ST, but it very soon got compatibility of this drive, brought in line with Amigas and PCs and all sorts of things. But I first came across this on the Atari ST. My very early Atari ST videos on my channel, I had a HXC, because that's what it's called originally, floppy drive emulator in there. Lothrak, the chap in Poland, manufactured those, and it used the firmware there from the HXC 2001 project. Jean-François still manages, maintains his project there. There's, lots of updates on it. There are utilities you can download, and it's well worth having a look at that GitHub page, because there are utilities you can run on DOS, on Linux, etc., and maybe on other platforms as well, that allow you to change the format of various disk images. So the Amiga, the standard disk image it supports is .adf. It's like a binary archive, if you like, of a disk image, but it doesn't take into account, that format doesn't take into account protection mechanisms and things, and of which there are many. There are other file formats like .ips, and on things like on the ST you've got is it STX? I think there's various formats for different computers where the disk was archived and the protection was somehow written to the image as well. So it doesn't support everything here. It supports ADFs, so this should be pre-configured for the Amiga. Gotta hope get pin 1 right. So the red stripe's there, so pin 1 on this. Yeah, it's gonna be the world's shortest video, this. Yeah, pin 1 is on the left side here, so it is gonna go that way, I think. And I guess I can test ground, certainly, and obviously it's going to be screwed in from the bottom like that. Anyway, I now need to go find a power cable. So you can get from that to that pretty cheaply off eBay, £2 or £3. That's what I need. I've got one on a SCSI card, so I'm just going to borrow it from that, and I'll have to purchase another one. Right, so I've got the cable from the SCSI drive here. It's a bit big actually. That is a bit long. Doesn't fit there very well. And obviously do make sure you get this around the right way. It smells really fragrant, this, and it's soft and flexible. It's mysterious how flexible it is. It's like really soft. I don't know why it smells flowery. It's a bit of a strange one. So yeah, we'll connect this up to the Amiga. Yeah, the external port is right in the middle here. Yeah, and sort of, hang on, there's not enough space on here. Let's just move that out of the way. What I'd like to do is just test ground. Yeah, so testing from ground on the motherboard here to the ground in the centre there. Nothing to... hang on, we do have a short to 5 volts somehow. And a short to 12 volts. How's that? We've got 10 ohms on 12 volts. And we've got 5 point something ohms on the 5 volts. 3 ohms on the ground. Already I'm a little bit concerned by this actually, the fact that we've got such low resistances there to things. Yeah, so already I'm a bit concerned because we have those shorts there, so I'm going to measure from the motherboard again. We're on volts DC this time. I'm going to measure that side. Yeah, 5 volts. It's a bit low. The other side, 5 volts. So this is just for 5 volt drives. And that makes sense because I don't know whether 12 volts even goes across it. It probably does, but in any case, both those connections are 5 volts. So I guess the next logical thing would be to connect this back up again, like that. That went on a bit firmer. And just power it, do nothing but power it. In theory, it should display something on here, so let's try that. Yeah, there we go, flash floppy. So that's working, switch it off. And now I'm going to connect it up here. Yeah, and I'm sure pin 1 is that side there. It can't be any other way, and it does go to the right hand side on that there, so let's just, I don't know, see what happens with that. Now the Amiga's booting up at this stage. I don't know whether we're going to get a B drive or not, because we've not got a USB stick in, therefore we've got no actual drive mounted, I guess. I don't know. It might just show us an empty drive icon. Now strangely it's stalled at that point, so I'm just going to power cycle it. And it could be because the 5 volt level's a bit low. Just holding both mouse buttons down on boot, you can see we've got DF2 here. So I'm just going to switch that off, switch the switch on the back of the drive. Is that going to be DF3 or DF1? I don't know. Let's just try that same thing. See what it reports. I'm guessing it's going to be DF3 because I think DF0 and DF1 are purely internal. Boot options. In fact, it's not even... oh, we've got a DF0, but... what's CC0? Card disk? I don't know what CC0 is. I think that's Live 2... hang on. No, LH0 is Live 2's thing. I don't know what CC0 is. Yeah, so I've switched that switch back. I suspect that switch is set to DF3 maybe. We'll just try that again. See if we get that card thing again. I do have the Live 2 Ripple that you may or may not have seen yet. Yeah, there it is again, look, CC0. Yeah, anyway, DF2, it does come up as DF2 when that switch is to the right hand side. You know, well, actually the left hand side if you look at it from the back. That's Live 2's board. That's the TF536 IDE. That's a mystery. And that's obviously DF0, which we don't have at the moment. So I think the next thing I should do is get a USB memory stick some ADFs on there, and I don't know, just have a play around with the menu when we power it on to see if we can select a disk. Yeah, here it is, 32 gig, that should be big enough, and I just got one of these tiny little thumb sort of size ones. These are the scissors that I fixed on my channel before. You can see the thing there. Right, I'll be back in a minute when I've stuck some ADFs onto that little thing. And Keir Fraser, over the last so many years, created an alternative firmware and made it open source, because the initial firmware, you had to pay some sort of fee or something, which I didn't mind doing, to be honest. It's a nice fully featured firmware, the original firmware that goes with the HXC drives from Lothrak and from other manufacturers that use that initial firmware there. But Keir Fraser created a flash floppy, which is an open source firmware. And that's what these drives tend to have these days. Mine, as you'll see, comes pre-flashed with a recent version of Flash Floppy, but we'll upgrade it to the latest one because it's changing all the time. Right, so I've got a small selection of games, mostly beginning with R. Can you tell I was in the R directory? Wow, that's tight. Anyway, that's in. So let's make sure nothing's short in here. Switch it on. I'm going to hold both mouse buttons down. Now it's come up with a name there straight away. I can't actually read it from here. I think it says Tiny Bobble. Yeah, so it's picked up the first disc. And I'm going to choose boot options. We're going to choose DF2. Not all games may work this way, but we'll try it. Let's try DF2, use, boot. See if it boots from disk. Yeah, so we can see activity there. I think. It might be looking at the hard disks now, I'm not sure. Yes, it is. And actually I think it's booting from hard disk. And this is the thing. You can tell it to boot from something like that, and then it won't. Yeah, and you can see what I mean there. That LED is flashing like the clappers, because despite the fact we told it to boot from DF2, it's seemingly booting from hard disk. It's looking at that hard disk now. There's 4 drives on there, then it'll probably go back to here, I think. Oh yeah, we've got the... hang on. Right, that's interesting. I've got the Amiga DOS screen up top left, but it's now looking at this. So it is booting from this. And you can see that there, it was decompressing. Oh look, it's loaded. There we go. So we booted from Floppy. That's fantastic. What puzzled me was the convoluted boot process where it looked at the hard disk and seemed to boot from the hard disk. And I think that that's what happens when you have an Amiga DOS disk, and that's what this game is using probably. It's probably just like, you know, got a startup sequence and the game is just launched from the startup sequence. Because of the way it launches, it looks at all the drives, gets all your hard disks mounted and stuff as well. But that's amazing. Let's plug a joystick in. So there'll be a separate video on this stick. That kind of came from the amazing Mr. Terrible Fire. So fire. Oh yes. So much easier to test when you can just use a floppy image like that, an ADF. It's the one thing that catches me out a lot when I'm doing testing. I have to write actual, you know, disk images using the 1200, copying on a compact flash card. Yeah, write an ADF on the 1200 to a blank floppy in order that I can quickly test something on a machine. So yeah, this is much quicker. I could just copy that ADF to the USB stick and I'm away. And of course, not every single thing out there is in the form of WHD load. There's some things where you might actually want to boot from an actual ADF image. There's not a hard disk version of the file. So let's power cycle it again. And I've zoomed you in a wee bit there. Let's just try moving the thing here. Oh, there we go, Tiny US. That's what I want to go with actually, so let's do that. And just power cycle it again, hold both mouse buttons down. It's remembered it was on Tiny US there. That's so cool. I'm glad I got the rotary encoded thing there though, because it just makes it a bit easier navigating. So same thing again, boot options, DF2. You see, I think you can disable these. I could disable some of these things, like DH0. But I just want to see, does this actually work? Does it speed up the boot at all? In fact, we've only got DF2 enabled. Well, let's choose DF2, use, boot. At the moment, the screen is not even on the Gotek. Oh, hang on. How's it crashed? Alright, now it's looking at the Gotek. Yeah, straight in that time. It's not doing the convoluted, slower hard disk stuff. I think that reset was because, well, the Amiga, the Ref 6 and the Ref 6 2000 that is, and the Ref 6 A500, both of them have an issue with the reset, that not everything in the RAM gets cleared. So if you do a short power cycle as I did, you can get that message, get that guru. It's a common thing. It was something to do with either the time of the reset delay or the actual RAM type changing, because they went to 4.256s, didn't they? It's not 4.4256s instead of 4.1256s. And seemingly they didn't get cleared properly after a reset, and that's why you get that guru, if you ever wondered. Oh, so hard, this game. What I'm curious about with this is running it from floppy like this. Will I be able to get past the boss? Because When I've played this on the 536 on the hard disk, the WHD load version at least, you get stuck on the boss, you can't get past it. Oh god, it's so hard. No, it really isn't that hard, I just make it look hard. I hate the way you change direction like that, that's what gets me. A particle went through me there, I don't know how that happened. One of the bullets, it missed me. See, I think this is a beta. Oh. I've got a slim chance of getting to the boss, haven't I? Oh, let's concentrate really hard this time. The nice thing with this game is it supports 2 fire buttons. So this joystick is just to tick it really, because you can obviously select weapons without having to try and reach out for the keyboard. I want to get an option. In fact, we'll go with the laser. Need one more to get an option. There we go. Just get a bit further and might get to the boss. I think it's here actually, is it? Or is there a volcano bit first? I forget. No, don't know. This is the volcano bit, isn't it? I'm not sure if the option will protect the underneath of me there. Yeah, here's the boss. Yeah, so if you play this, as I say, from WHD load, you get stuck here. I've got stuck here. But the point is, when you kill the boss, when you're playing from hard disk, you don't get past it. It just stays on that screen. It doesn't end. Oh, that should have hit it. Just a few more shots. Oh. There we go. Is it going to go on to the next level? Yes, it is. So there we go. There's an advantage with some games, and this is one of them, than playing from floppy. And I am using the 536 here, so it's not an incompatibility with the 536, that is for sure. I think it's probably something to do with the slave that they use for this WHD load version. Got an option there, look. Oh, I hate the way they circle around you. It's pretty much arcade perfect this version. Not much going on here, where are they all? Go away. I'm trying to look at what power-ups I've got. Need one more for another option, don't I? Right back here, that'll get me to fire in the wrong spot. Reminds me a little bit of R-Type, this bit, on level 5 is it? Or 4? Oh, we've got a boss, I think, have we? Maybe we haven't. Oh no, we have. I don't like bits like this. Everything follows you. Do you have to shoot this stuff? Seemingly not. Oh no, it's Amiga. I don't know what he's going to do here. Same attack as it. What I do like is when you've got the option, you can sort of, and laser, you can sort of strafe a little bit across it, and generally you'll hit it if you're almost in the middle. So it managed to strafe just out of the way there. Come on, there we go. Is that the end of that level? Yep. God, that one's moving a bit fast. They're all moving a bit fast, in fact. I think it reset my collectibles things, didn't it? Because I was near an option and then suddenly I'm back to speed again. Oh. Come on, give me another option. Sounds like another boss. Sure, it can't be another boss already. Maybe it's not arcade perfect, I don't know, I don't really remember. No, it's not, it just means it's changed. Oh, different bit. Can you kill those? Seemingly not. Oh my god. They just fire out when you're literally under them. Oh. I need one more for option. There you go, 3 options. We're going to die any second because that's what happens when you get loads of power-ups. Oh my god. That's nuts. Oh god. How hard? Anyway, I am a happy bunny that I have an external drive here. So what's that? Metal Gear R-Type. Let's have a go of R-Type. Let's try that. Yeah, this game seems to have stuck on the title screen. Let me show you. Yeah, it's just sat there. Let's try space. Nope. Mouse button. Nope. So this might be one of these games that if you load it for anything other than DF0, you get an issue. I think this is one of the reasons why. You can do a mod, can't you, to swap the internal DF0 around with the external port. This is perhaps an instance of where that would be a useful thing. But thinking about this, the other issue is, and this is where you get incompatibilities, we've got Kickstart 3.1 on here. It might need an earlier version, and this is where WHD load is the lifesaver really, because that does all, you know, it wraps up everything there into a little environment where everything, you know, all the prerequisites are there. So, you know, if you've got an old game in WHD load that needs Kickstart 1.2 or 1.3, it just works. Whereas this now could be the fact that we've got 3.1 here. In fact, I'm more inclined to think it's the version of Kickstart that's the issue with this. So I've restructured the files and things on here. Just notice I've got an extra I in diagnostics there. I'll rename that in a minute. So in the root, you need the auto boot. There you go. .hfe. This is from the Flash Floppy archive. There'll be links down below to the GitHub page for that. Look at the bottom here. It says FWFF-3.38. So I'm guessing firmware is on 3.38. Now I've got the newer chip. I'll remind you of that and remind me of that in a minute. I can't put the part numbers on it. But interestingly, the firmware is not quite up to date because I think 3.42 perhaps is a later. Well, there's actually newer version 4 ones, but those are in testing. And as well as auto boot in the root, you need this file here, the hxc csdfe.cfg. That comes again with the Flash Floppy firmware stuff. You know, it's all in one archive. So I'm going to go look at that. We should have the later firmware, I think, so I might be able to apply that. It's going to be a .upd file, maybe. What else have we got? So I've copied all my homebrew and stuff into a folder there. DMS files don't work, it is just ADF, so I may need to try and find a way of converting those. Got my demos in there, got some drivers, it's just like Janus and some DMS files that don't work. And of course my workbench installs, which is really handy. You know, I've got like 3.2, 3.1, 3.14 and 1.3.3 as an example there. I'm not sure those two discs are a matching set, but all these ones are, because I've got licenses for that stuff. There's a lot of discs to 3.2. Hang on a minute, what happened there then? Well, that's interesting. I can't actually go into the 3.2 folder. I need to check that out on the card. There must be something unusual about the... In fact, it's not going into any folder now, look. That's weird. So I can't go into 3.1 and I can't go into 3.2. What is it about those folders? Maybe it's the length of the file names, maybe? I don't know. We can go into 3.1.4 and we can go into 1.3. Maybe it's a firmware thing. Maybe I do need to update the firmware. Because bear in mind the auto boot I'm running here is from, I think, a later one, 3.4.2 I want to say. I could be wrong. Anyway, I'll report back in a minute. Right, I copied the firmware update. It's 3.41. We're on 3.38, I think. What you've got to do is hold both the buttons down here and then switch it on, and then it should give us... There we go. Hang on a minute. I'm not even sure I selected anything there. It says FF Update Flash. So I think we do... Click. It's flashing. Hang on a minute. Is that the Amiga? Yeah, that's the Amiga. FF Update Flash. Let's try the first button. Nope. Let's try. We've got something down here. I can't read it from that distance. It says E02. Is that an error? Right, reading the wiki, it says in general you do not need to update the bootloader, so I've removed, and error 02, it says there's 2 update files there, and that's right, there was one for the bootloader, one for the main firmware. So now we've got rid of, hang on, I'm sorry if I'm blocking the camera here, let's just hold both down, turn it on, update flash, hang on, what's that now? Oh, hang on, it's upside down. That's a problem. So the firmware has updated and now the display's upside down. Oh joy. I'm guessing it needs a custom firmware or something. I mean, it's working, look. It's loaded the menu, but the screen's upside down. Oh god. I mean, the good news is we're on 3.41 now, but we're upside down. Right, I found a forum where this was discussed. The screen is installed a different way up on the newer models here. So you put a file on the card, I'll perhaps upload this as a separate video, ff.cfg, and you just put a parameter in there like display type equals, I think it's display hyphen type equals, and then it's like the name of the driver, with rotate on the end of the name of the driver. So if we put this in, it should then automatically pick that up and flip. There we go, flip around the right way, it's back again, and then it's in the firmware now, it keeps that as a setting, so when you unplug it, it's still the right way up. Switch it off, switch it on, it should still be the right way up, it is. So that's it. So we're successfully on 3.41 now. We still have this problem here, whereby the 2 workbench folders can't be read on this, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is about them. I've had a look at them in Windows, and they seem fine, so let's just go back to auto boot. Let's go back to auto boot, power cycle. Right, so just waiting for that to boot from auto boot. I've actually removed the compact flash cards from the IDE drives in this machine at the moment, just so it always boots from the floppy. It does take a while. There we go, it's booting now. I don't know why I'm using the mouse, I can't use the mouse. So yeah, 3.41, the display's the right way up now. And yeah, if we go into Workbench, this is still a mystery to me, because we can go into 1.3, yeah, and we see the files. If we go back and we go into either 3.1, see, it just comes back, just throws us straight back out. So that's a problem, and 3.2 I think is a problem. I mean, the only thing I can see those have got in common is it's a 3-character path. Maybe I should increase them to 4 characters. I don't know. Is that the issue? Because these are the folders have all got. Well, mind you, they haven't. Because if I go into games, that's a single character. That one's got 3. Let's try that one. Yeah, that works. So it's not to do with the length of the folder. It doesn't make any sense, does it? The only other thing I can think is the order the things were written to the card. Yeah, maybe it's some quirk in that the order the directories were actually moved into the different subfolders and things there. I think maybe what I should do is cut this from the card completely, create a new workbench folder, and then just copy all in one hit from Windows and because I may have moved things around while they were on the card in retrospect. The other strange thing here is they're not in alphabetical order if you think about it. It's like, how does 3.2 come in before any of those things? Well, they are. Does it go Z to A? So we've got H, D, 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 G, W, then the files, but then that file's coming up before those files. I don't know, it's a wee bit odd, isn't it? Anyway, I'll do what I've just described. I'll copy that to the PC, delete it, just copy everything back, and we'll see if that solves it. Right, here we are again, just waiting for it to auto boot. So I did exactly that. Where is it now? Workbench, there it is. It does definitely remember the order. They come up in the order that you actually wrote things to the card. So let's check 1.3 first. 3.1. Nope. It doesn't work, does it? What is wrong with it? And 3.2. And of course the obvious thing is that a bug with that software, you know, the auto boot there. Let's just see if we can, how do we get into that? Hang on, is it direct? How would you get into direct mode here? Right, I'm going to have to use the menu to clear that first slot. When you're used to using Gotek, they're easy to use, but if you press help, it tells you here what to do. Clear the current slot, backspace. Oh, return. Right, okay, so we do return, and there we go, finally. So we deleted that. Now I don't know whether that's going to save. How does you get out the bleeding thing? It says insert the selected file. I don't want to do that. Maybe it's already saved. Let's try power cycling it. Yeah, so these are easy to use, unless you me. You see, look, we've still got this Jesus on E selected here. I thought we just got rid of that. I don't want that. To be fair, I have this with every single Gotek I've ever come across, including the original HXC drive that came from Lothrak. That actually navigating the menus on the device, despite the fact I've got a rotary encoder and 3 buttons in total, it's just painful. Absolutely painful. These things are fine for booting the odd disc, a diagnostics disc, getting a game on there or something. Hang on a minute. Getting a game on there where you don't. Let's press return. Yeah, look, it's still there. So we'll do delete. F7. There we go. I think. Yeah, there's a bug actually, because you can't exit. It selected a file, look. It selected the top file, which is idate.a or something. It's like a configuration file. So I've pressed return again to get to the slot list. There it is, look. It's assigned that file. So let's press help again. Is there no other restart option here? Oh, there we go. Right, I'm waffling on here. F9, save and F10, save and reboot, F10. There we go. Hang on. No, it's not. You've got to come out there first and then press F10. Let's try that. So, you know what? They did think of everything. It's just me being a moron. Hang on a minute. Now we can't navigate. This is what I don't get. Since this has been updated, I can't just navigate the card anymore. Why can't I navigate the card? See, the way it was working before, I could use the rotary encoder here to navigate the file system. Now, I don't seem to be able to do that. Right, so I've ordered a cable that I'm going to chop up. It's actually, you've got 2 of these on it, yeah, and the larger Molex. I can't get over how flexible those wires are. They're like made of jelly or something weird, those ones. Anyway, what I'll do is, like, you know, if you imagine cutting this in 2 here, that's what I'm going to do. Cut the 2 things off and then shorten them and join them up so it's just the right distance, you know, with a little bit of flexibility to go from sort of like, you know, there to there, like that. But we'll do that later. So for the moment, I'm just going to just squeeze this in here and just use it this way. I'm going to clean the underside of this. We'll remove these because, well, we're missing one. I'll put those in my spares because you can always reuse those for something where well, another one of these maybe, where it's missing a foot. But we're just going to just pull those off, clean underneath here with some IPA. We'll clean this. I'm not going to need that, are we? Yeah, there's like hair on there and some bits of dirt and stuff, so we'll just have a gentle clean over that. Marks and things here. No rust or anything on that, which is good. It's got a little thing there, look, you know, like a grill. It's just some fabric. That's it. Yeah, one down. Right, two down. That one took ages to do. So you can still see there's some dirt around here, clean that, some dirt here, and these two awful things. The way I would approach these, the way I just did that second one, was to, I don't know, use something like your nail or something, just, in fact, it's not even peeling that. I was going to say try and peel what you can off, but that's welded on there. Yeah, that's mostly spotless there now, really. Yeah, so the rubber feet went on the inside of these here and on the inside of those there. So I'm going to go with these ones, I think. So let's just peel these off where those are super sticky. And stick it almost up to the end of the thing there. You know, so it's not quite on the edge there. Just press that on. And the same with that one down there. There we go. Woohoo! 4 new feet. So I need to secure the driver next, but can you see what I can see? This metal plate here is bent downwards a bit here, and you can actually see it's sagging that way. You know, it's been pulled like that really hard, and this has got pressed in. So just looking down the profile, it should be straight. So I think what I'm going to do is just grab this here and just bend that way a little bit if I can. Yeah, that's better than it was. We didn't remove any of the paint or anything there. Still got the sticker there for the off on, which is interesting when it says off on. Oh, maybe it is off on. Yeah, maybe I was thinking this is a thing for DF3-4. I don't think it is actually. It's just an off on. Why you would want to switch it off, I don't know. Anyway, so let's get the drive back into there again. As I say, what I'll do is later I'll show you me doing this cable, but I won't show you me taking the drive to pieces and fitting it again, etc. because, well, we're covering that bit now. Just going to have to go through here like that. Yeah, and then you may think, oh, just screw it in here. Well, you can't, because that's what holds that on there. So it's one of these where it's a bit of a chicken and egg type thing. And look, it's on the very edge there. Because of the shape of this, yeah, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. It is. And that fits really well, actually. It's quite precisionally engineered, that piece of metal. Because it can just up. Yeah, you've got to get it just in the sweet spot there, like that. So the problem here, like I say, is trying to connect this up. Maybe I could slide it right to the back. No, it's going to be too difficult. It just makes you wonder how on earth these were ever assembled. I mean, the drive may have come in through the back, actually. Let's just see if that drive will come all the way through. No, it's going to get stuck. And it's probably going to get stuck here and pull this off, so maybe like that is the way. Wish this cable would go away. I think I connect that power cable up last, actually. Yeah, there's just like literally no space here. And of course, trying to get it on straight there is... That's it. But then how would you pull the drive back out? Oh, when it's in like that there. Seriously, how the hell did they assemble these at the factory? I mean, it didn't have a Gotek, that's the thing. There we go, so I'll just pull the drive out a little bit. Just ram this together here, I'm sure it'll all be alright. getting trapped right there. Oh. So I need to pull this further up like that, I think. Hope everything's still connected. There we go, finally. Right, I now need to find some screws. Right, that was a bit painful. We've still got some dirt around there, look, but anyway, and I did have to move these just marginally. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the back ones. So I'm just using a selection of PC motherboard and case screws here, and I'm, well, it's specifically looking for, well, this type of head here. There we go, so full complement of screws. Just need to clean the top up. So if I just give the cable a bit of a wash, you can see all the dirt coming off there. A wee bit of contact cleaner in there like that. Right, I'll connect it all up and let's see if it's still working. Yeah, full disclosure, I did have to take the screws back out again because when we slid the drive back up this way, I did it too soon when the lid was not far enough back and the cable just disconnected. So we had the power, yeah, the screen was there and it was like, it was never looking at it. So yeah, that's all it was, the IDC connector had come off, so anyway. Let's just try and load this. Now I think this is going to freeze. Hang on. Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, I'll show you, hang on. So that's the converted version of where time stood still. You can see we just get the screen here and it just locks up. And I think this is about Kickstart version. It could be the TF536 because we've got an 030 with caches and things, instruction cache, data cache. There is a jumper on the 536 for this very reason. And this is why my go-to is not floppy drive, because you just get way more compatibility issues. What we can do though is remove this. I'll just see if I've got a 1.3. Yeah, so I've got a 1.3 here. Pin 1 towards Agnes there. Let's just try it with 1.3. I bet that'll work. Unless it's caches. And then maybe I could stick the jumper on the 536 and we'll prove that. So just waiting for it to do its thing with the... in fact, it's not booting at all from that. And it's because, this is the other thing, as soon as you go to old versions of Kickstart, they will not auto boot from an external drive. And this is the thing, so it's like, I can't actually win with this, can I? But we're on 1.3, which you can see there. But as I say, that will not boot from DF1 or DF2. On this version of Kickstart, that happens automatically with 3.1 or 3.1.4 or 3.2, etc. And Kickstart 3 probably, and Kickstart 204 or 205. I think you can do that. So on this setup here, I can't load lots of different games that would have targeted the 500 or the 2000. Yeah, so on ESD unsafe here, it's obviously going to go down here. I'm just trying to gauge up length on this really. Just get that on there, approximate. So, you know, these two are going to be joined together. So if we're to join it about there maybe, so if I trim all four of those like that, yeah, they don't need to be that long, do they? About there maybe. You know, the last thing you want is your 5 volts going to your 12 volts, etc. And the advantage of doing it this way is it's going to be pretty much just the right length, isn't it? And we've got that excess connector that we can use for something else. So tin each one up that way and report back when I've done them all. I know these are spread out at the moment, but they'll join up when we shrink them. So there's lots of different ways of joining wires. With something like this, where it's not going to be flexed and moved continuously, I tend to tin them up like I've done here, and then put them in line with each other, which can be easier said than done. But yeah, you can kind of, you know, with a bit of manipulation, get them nice and straight. Get some solder into the equation here. Put them, you know, perfectly in line with each other, and a bit of that, and you get a nice little beady point there. You can see that's going to be really robust. It's right across the length of it. But I watched a documentary a few years back, actually. Someone sent it to me on YouTube. It was from NASA about how to get the perfect wire join. And it depends on the application, depends on what you're doing, but if you want a wire to be flexible, you may want to separate half the strands, yeah. I think you wrap the strands around each other and then sort of pull it flat, and then the other pair you sort of twist up like that and then twist them together and then put those in a line with the cable, and you get a more, I didn't explain that very well, but you get a more mechanically secure cable in terms of, you know, if you're doing flexing and things like that. And I think that may have come from the military, actually. I think the military have got really stringent rules on how to splice and join cables. This is not how you do it for long-term reliability, where you're disconnecting and reconnecting things. Yeah, I'll try and get 3 of them in the right place here, using that bottom one there as a guide, because, well, it's easy to use that as a guide, isn't it? You can see, you know, where the gap is. Yeah, and just testing those, can't move them. They're held in position because the gap in the middle is a bit narrower than it is on the outside, so you'd have to pull those fairly hard to remove that heat shrink. And then I've got to somehow now get this into the shell, and it doesn't like going in that way, it prefers to go in that way. Oh god. Right, the simplest thing to do with this is to peel this off, actually. Get that tape off, get that little grill off, because it's got a solid top, this drive. There's no reason we wouldn't want to have that there. It is, I'll try and retain this just for future use for something else. It's just a piece of fabric there that just acts as a dust sort of thing. I mean, dust's going to go through it, but, you know, these holes here, they just line up with the solid plastic here anyway, so there's no loss. Let's just try this again. It's been an absolute pain to do this. What makes this difficult is the slight recess on the, well, not really recess. What makes this difficult is the edge sort of sticking out a bit there at the front. So if we push this in, yeah, you can see the difficulty is, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on? I've got upside down now, haven't I? Oh, God. It goes under there like that. You can see already I'm getting stuck. Here we go. And I've got to try and hold the drive here. And then when you get to this point here, you can't then pull it this way. You can't then pull it from the front because there's nothing to grip. And if you pull it more than, you know, a millimetre or two, it pops out of here. So yeah, don't let anyone tell you they're easy to assemble these. They are not. So we've got power. Let me just get rid of these. The key is, once it finishes seeking the hard disks, it should flash here. If it doesn't, I don't know. I think it's going to stay dead in that case for the rest of its life, because I honestly don't know if I've got the willpower to take it back out again. Hey, it worked, thank God for that. And on the desktop we got there Amiga test kit 1.2, fantastic. Brilliant. One thing I did notice, if you test the floppy drive here, we choose DF2 because that's where it is, and we do head calibration test. Yeah, you get this here using Amiga. Hang on. Oh, I've got a different message. The message we got before said that the drive was too fast. Maybe I did a signal test, or. Yeah, surprisingly, it's not giving me the same thing there. Read test. That's the one I saw. Drive ready, too fast, 172 microseconds. Gotek or modified PC drive. So it's interesting that, you know, there is a timing difference there, but I think for the most part that doesn't cause you any issues. You know, something ready responds too fast, I think. So the video is going on in length a bit. We played a few games on it earlier. You'll have seen this on several other videos because, you know what, I featured this, you know, used it to test various things. I think there's a 1200 repair coming up and it features on there. So I've used this all over the place. It was interesting to see, you know, this particular external unit. A lot of these have a different switch here. They don't just have an on and off switch. I was under the assumption this is like some of my other drives, like the Commodore one, for example, where you can change the ID. It's not just off or on. Why would you want to switch it off? I don't know. So this one is just stuck as a DF2, but many of them have a DF2, 3 switch on the back, so you can toggle which drive it actually is. The Amiga 2000 motherboard, obviously you've got DF0, DF1, those are as internal. On a 500, plugging this in the back, it may be detected as DF1, I suspect, you know, but I could be wrong. There's plenty of these external drives that go up for sale that are faulty. It's a good use case, you know, if you're looking for, you know, if you want a Gotek rather than fit a Gotek into your Amiga 500. I've got a repair coming up from Jamie Morgan, actually, his 500, and he's got an internal Gotek in his Amiga 500. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to do the switch, you know, switch the drive into, you know, the DF0, so that it's acting as an internal drive, and that's the best thing to do if you're going to do something like this with an external drive. Check out Miss Madelemon's channel down below. There was a video she did about a month or two back where I think on hers she's fitted an internal Gotek into a tower case. It's well worth watching that video, and I think she's got some switches on the front, and one of them switches the internal and external so that it changes, you know, it toggles a DF0 and DF1 around, which is a really cool thing to do, because like I say, games that are non-Amiga DOS, have a custom bootloader or something on them, a lot of the time they're just looking at the ID DF0, so they may load part way through and then you find it freezes like R-Type did, and I think that maybe was the issue with that game. But also Kickstart can cause you problems with floppy drives. So floppy drives, you know, like this, a Gotek, it's not really a panacea. It's not going to solve all your problems in terms of accessing the library of Amiga games. You would still perhaps want IDE with WHD load, but having an external drive is so blooming useful, hence why it's appeared in several of my Amiga videos already, because sometimes just being able to plug a drive in and boot from a, you know, a test kit or something, some diagnostic software, yeah, it just makes it much easier to use. Kickstart 1.3, you can't do the hold both mouse buttons down to choose to boot from a drive like this. And in fact, you didn't need to do that. You can just let it boot from this. You know, with Kickstart 2 onwards, if there's no hard disk fitted and you've not got anything in DF0, it will look here. It goes through the different drives and goes, oh, you've got something in DF2, I'll boot from that. Anyway, I do hope you found that video interesting. If you'd like to support the channel, please see the Ko-fi and Patreon links down below. Massive thanks to Plan C for this shell. I will catch you in the next video.